So I'm here with Mike and Sian, who've retrofitted their property. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did?
When we moved into the house, we realised it was very cold. It was quite dark and there was quite a lot of condensation. So over a 3-year period, we set about improving the insulation to the walls,
Yeah.
and underfloor. We replaced the boiler and the radiators, and we replaced our windows and doors.
Good. And you also did some internal insulation. Part of it internal, part of it external.
Yeah, where we could, we insulated the cavity, but that was only in one small part of the house. Elsewhere, it was predominantly internal insulation, and on one particular wall, it was external.
And in fact, this one here.
That's right, the one behind us.
Okay.
So the kitchen, we did the internal insulation last year, and we did notice a difference, quite considerable. But we were really surprised when we did the refit of the kitchen, and we decided to actually insulate. So we lifted the floor up, insulated underneath the floor, and then put wooden floor down. And that has made an astonishing difference.
Much warmer all round. So this room shows how we've maximised the light. It used to be quite a dark room. Now we have this large single pane window, and the reveals used to be straight and now angled so as to scoop in as much light as possible. And we've got the lighter colour scheme as well to help. Also in this room we used to have an open fire, which was effectively a big hole up which lots of cold air used to rush. Now we have that's all closed off, and we have a stove installed, which makes a massive difference to the warmth in this room and this part of the house.
Okay, so this shows the depth of the insulation that we've used in this room, and because we only needed to insulate the top part and that side wall, we decided to make the insulation a feature. So we pulled the insulation right the way down, so we've created this nice alcove, as well as actually a fantastically warm room as well.
And what benefits have you noticed?
We've had a tremendous difference now. So previously the house was really cold, and it was actually often colder inside than it was outside.
Oh.
And now it is much warmer inside than it is outside. We used to have really bad condensation in the bedrooms in particular. In fact, our main bedroom we moved out of because it just got so wet and mouldy.
What was the original construction? Is it brick or solid stone?
Solid stone.
Oh, so typical for the area, solid.
It is. It's bits of houses added onto bits of houses, which is why we could do cavity at the end, because the last bit is cavity wall.
Oh, that's an extension. That was a more recent extension. Yeah. Great. Okay. And do you have any advice or recommendations for people who might be wanting to retrofit?
It's very worth it. You really have got to think carefully about your options, because there are pros and cons to both internal and external insulation, in terms of the impact on the house, the disruption, and to an extent the cost. Wherever possible, you should be looking to try and insulate under the floor as well. That we've noticed that has made a very big difference.
And how did you do that? How did you insulate under it? Did you go for solid floor, or did you go for?
Well, in the areas that in some rooms we had to change the flooring and replace the flooring anyway. But in our kitchen, we just decided that we took up the old tiles and put down the insulation.
And that was a solid floor to begin with, yeah. Right. Good. This is a lovely sunny day, and we're looking at Nick's house, which has been retrofitted.
That's right, yes. Yeah.
And can you tell me, you've got lots of things we can see at the front of the house here. What have you done?
Okay, so the simple stuff is rainwater harvesting. We're collecting all the water off both front and back of the roof, which means that we get a significant reduction in our water rates, which is quite nice.
Very
good.
We
we use this water for flushing the downstairs toilet, and the water at the back we use for watering the garden. And we have
that's very clever.
Form and so on. Yeah, so that works well.
And the insulation there?
And the insulation is on a solid brick wall, so it was a 9-inch brick wall. and we put on top of that 10 centimetres diffutherm, which is a hardwood based
Wood fibre
based insulation, and on top of that a lime render, and on top of that a silicate top coat.
Okay.
And that allows the bricks to breathe. There was a lot of damp in the building, and that combination allows the damp to come out through the insulation.
It's good.
So a total of 11 centimetres out on the outside of the house.
And you've also done it on the back.
The whole house is clad. The whole of the outside of the house is clad with this diffutherm. Yeah.
Did you retain the existing windows on here? It's a conservation area. Actually.
It is a conservation area, and that's a very long story.
Oh, right.
But we have an exemption from the conservation area. So yes,
you got in there just before.
That's right. Yes, we did.
Excellent.
Which
okay.
we're very pleased with, because
lucky.
if we hadn't, we wouldn't have been able to insulate the front of the house, and that would have made a significant reduction to the thermal efficiency of the job.
Absolutely, good. So we'll have a look at the back of the house as well.
Great.
So we're here at the back now, and it's much the same story, isn't it? But
yes.
A few extra things. So you had the few things to deal with at the back.
Yeah, all the downpipes had to come off. We chose to cut off the stone windowsills because they would have made the insulation thinner.
Yeah.
We could have insulated over them, but
Much
to cut them
better
off
to
and then get the full value of the insulation.
Yeah, very good.
And then on the side of the house we had a soil pipe, obviously from the upstairs toilet, and the whole of the soil pipe had to come out by 11 centimetres, which meant we had to dig down and bring out the soil pipe underground and redo all that plumbing. So that was...
You only had to do that once at the back.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Good. Okay. And let's see. This has been up here how long now? 8 years?
8 years now, yes.
Eight years.
Yeah.
And it must make a difference. It's quite a big property. So what were your motivations for doing it on the property?
So the main motivation was environmental. My wife Carol had done a workshop with Transition Stroud, a carbon footprinting workshop, to work out our carbon footprint as a family.
Very
And
good.
we were already, we weren't flying, we don't own a car, so our biggest footprint by far was the cost of the house, the heating cost of the house.
You're keen environmentalists then?
We are pretty dark green, yes. Yeah.
Good.
So that was one motivation. The other was that the house was cold. It was very cold. It was a solid brick wall. There was no option to do cavity wall insulation. And
that must apply to all the houses along here.
Absolutely.
As well. So they're all got this
this
issue.
solid brick wall. Yeah. And also the other problem is that the bricks are starting to crumble, starting to degrade. So there's quite a lot of damp getting in.
So rather than having to keep doing all that maintenance on the brickwork, you could actually protect it with this as well.
Yeah, the bricks now are safe. They're not degrading anymore, and the bricks actually act as a sort of night storage system. So we heat the house, the bricks warm up, and instead of the heat all disappearing out as it used to, the heat can't get out past the insulation. It then radiates back in. So we sometimes wake up in the morning and it feels like the walls are radiating heat back into the house. So,
right. Yeah. So what benefits have you noticed?
We've noticed a massive reduction in our gas bill. We've now fitted a wood-burning stove, which
that's going to help as well.
Heats the house. It has a top boiler, and the top boiler has a 3 kilowatt output, which heats our hot water system for us. Or it can heat the radiators. It will do one or the other.
So is that going to a tank then?
That goes to the hot water header tank. Yeah, but the hot water storage tank. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, actually, and that tank will be useful because you've also got solar thermal on your roof.
That's right. So
they can all feed into the same system.
Exactly. Yeah, and Peter Ely, bless him, has plumbed it in so that we can either heat using the wood burner or the passive solar, or we can. There's an immersion heater in there if we want to top up.
Very good.
But we've disconnected the gas boiler. That was the big thing, that we no longer use our gas boiler. So our gas boiler.
Oh, you're solely on wood.
Wood and solar and a little bit of electricity when we need to top up.
So we're now in your lounge, and now we're right next to your boiler. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
So we're very excited about this. This is a clear view stove with a top boiler, not a back boiler. Quite an important difference. A back boiler, because there's a steady flow of cool water coming into the back boiler, it cools the firebox and makes the stove burn less efficiently. With a top boiler, it uses the flue gases to heat the
that's clever.
Heat the boiler, and therefore you get a better performance of the firebox itself. So there's a top boiler in there which we use to heat our hot water,
Yeah.
But there's a switch upstairs that we can switch it on to radiators. So it's a 3 kilowatt output. It will either heat the hot water tank for us, or it will heat 1 or 2 radiators. But obviously, it won't heat the whole central heating system.
No.
So, but because it's a slightly open plan house, and we've got this in the basement.
I was going to say, it should probably rises up to the
pretty
rest of the
much
house.
heats the whole house, and then of course the pipes from here up to the hot water boiler are also radiating heat as well. So the rooms that passes through get slightly warmed by the
And that's probably something that wouldn't have happened before the installation was on. It wouldn't have done it quite so well.
The house is significantly warmer and drier than it used to be. Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
But we do get through about 5 tons of wood a year.
5 tons?
Yes.
Where do you put it all?
We store it outside in various patches around the garden. We have various stages of dryness of timber. Yes.
And did you have any recommendations or advice for people who are thinking about retrofits, maybe unsure about the whole process?
Okay.
It took a little while for you, I suppose.
Yeah, it was quite a long project. I took a bit of time off work to project manage it, and it does need someone to project manage it. I probably wouldn't do it again myself. I'd probably get someone who had done it before to do it. Because there is quite a lot to think about and quite a lot of people to manage in terms of the phone cables coming off the outside of the house, any electric cables off the outside, the gas needs moving, the gas box needs moving off the side of the house. So all of this needs thinking about and managing. We've produced a list, and anybody's welcome to have that. There's a 4 or 5 page document of things we would do differently if we were to do it.
Oh, good.
So that has been written down. But the one that sticks in my mind is that we did replace some of the windows just before the retrofit.
Yeah.
And if we'd thought about it, we would have brought the windows out by 11 centimetres so that they were flush with the outside of the insulation. As it is, they are in the original brickwork, which means there is a cold gap. Whereas if we'd built the windows out by 11 centimetres, it would have looked a bit odd until the insulation went on, but then we would have had a deep sill on the inside of the window and a much warmer, no thermal bridge.
Yeah. Okay.
But then there is a list of other things I will happily give to anybody who wants to send me an email. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too.
Cheers.
This is Peter Cornish's house, and with this one we've got some pictures before, during and after the work was done, as well as some video footage while I was there.
The old cottages were built really like a dry stone wall, so you've got an outside wall, an inside wall, and a rubble filling.
Oh yes, okay.
All right. So in fact, the term, I think, because it's not really dressed stone, is rubble construction.
Rubble construction. I've heard of that. Yes.
So effectively, like a dry stone wall you'd see out in the field. As I say, that's the nature of it. Now, and on average, I suppose that the walls are about half a metre thick. So that explains why it was so cold. Yes, the insulation is the depth of the insulation is the depth of the reveals on both doors and windows. The new doors and windows, the outside face of the timber is flush with the base layer.
Right, so just about here then.
Yes,
just
that's
about
right.
there, right.
Yes, and the insulation is wood fibre. It's 2 layers, each 60 mil thick, so the total is 120 millimetres. And to the way it was applied, the cottage was already rendered, which actually was very helpful because it made getting planning permission no problem really. Where had it just been the Cotswold stone without render, I think I might have had difficulty. Anyway, so the old render was removed because a lot of it was blown. It had become detached from the stone. So all that was removed. A certain amount of stone repairs were needed. Actually, curious enough, one of the worst areas was below this window, where various things have been growing in the wall. So there were roots, and there was actually earth due to decay of biological matter. And after the stonework was repaired, then a lime mortar base coat was put on to get the walls within reason as flat and as smooth as possible. And then the first layer of wood fibre goes on and it's effectively a riveting system. they drill, and the rivets, as it were, in inverted commas, they're actually they fit into a plastic sleeve,
Yeah.
and they're hammered home to expand the sleeve to grip. I decided that in the end to opt for triple glaze because they went a lot more expensive. I can't say actually off the top of my head now how much more
They're
expensive,
only a little bit more, yeah.
But I think of maybe perhaps 20% more expensive, but I felt was really well worth it from the point of view of reducing the thermal loss. I know one guy said to me about it also reduces thermal gain, but I think probably living in this country, there's probably likely to be at least as much loss as gain, if not more. I always wanted to do outside because with inside insulation you get cold bridging, where outside walls or the floors, like the first floor meets the wall, because you can only insulate up to it on the lower room and down to it on the upper room. So whereas doing that, that's right. You avoid all the cold bridging. Plus, the advantage of the external insulation is all that massive stone inside becomes like a huge storage heat radiator.
Yeah.
Once it's warmed up, it holds the heat. So I got a huge thermal store. In order to adequately protect the top face of the wood fibre from the weather, you have to have extend the eave to make sure that worst case, if the water off the roof doesn't get into the gutter, it doesn't get into the top of the wall. It falls down outside. So that's but actually, having done that, I think it has vastly improved the look of the cottage.
So this is your air source heat pump.
Yes. Which actually, this only does heating. I'm not doing the hot water via this because I have an Arga which is oil fired, which is probably would be considered, and I admit is quite uneco, but I like it. And I intend keeping it. It was here when I bought the place 40 years ago, and I'm keeping it. So
very comfortable.
Yes, so that provides my heating during the winter months. I only run it during the winter months. It'll be going off very soon. And then at the moment I heat the water during the summer and do cooking with electric. But the intention would be that the PV I have will be put into the immersion heater with one of those type of systems where you can harvest the excess.
So now round at one of the sides, and we can see this big expansive roof with your PV on there.
Yes.
So that's
this is it's not quite due south facing. It's slightly west of south, but it's pretty good. And the panels I've got give the 4 kilowatts peak, and they're, when I bought them, and I think they still are, the most efficient panels on the market. They're American SunPower International.
excellent.
Okay, they're more expensive than some others, but they perform well. All the roofs are new, literally everything you can see. The flat roofs, the pitch roof, it's all new. The original roof, pitch roof on the main part of the house was very shallow. They were only 3-inch deep rafters, 75mm, and very little scope for insulation because I got vaulted ceilings, as you can see from the having the dormer there. And so I've had all new roof. Also, in fact, part of the roof on one of the original 3 cottages was in a very dodgy state. The timbers were extremely dodgy, and so the whole roof was off. The place was completely clad in scaffolding, right, and shielded right over the top. And the new roof, that main pitch roof, they are 250mm deep, 10-inch deep rafters. They're filled between them with sheep's wool. Then across the top of them is a 60mm thick wood fibre sarking board, then a membrane, and then there are battens up the roof, and then the tar battens go across.
So, what were your motivations for doing the retrofit?
Simply to because I love being up here. I've been here living in this place for 40 years, and
Oh, really? You've been here a long time.
Yes, I have.
You've been uncomfortable for a long time.
Yes, I have been. Well, certainly once I retired, it wasn't so obvious when I was working. But no, I mean, as you get older, you tend to feel the cold more, and
you're at home more.
Well, to the extent that I found the place very cold in the winter months.
Yeah.
Because obviously being here for many more hours than when I was working, spending much more time in the house, and just finding it really hard to keep warm. In fact, I tended fairly much to live in the end of the house where the Arga is, because there's a bathroom and a bedroom over that, so I could live more or less in that end of the house and be not too uncomfortable. Because I want to stay here, because I like it here, I want to stay here for the rest of my life. So I decided if I was going to, then I needed to be warm and comfortable during the winter as well as the summer months in order to enjoy my life.
Yeah, so what advice would you give for people who were thinking of retrofitting?
Well, I think if retrofitting stroke renovation, I think if you have the opportunity to get an old building, an old cottage, then I think the best way to renovate it is don't have anything in it, don't live in it, don't have any furniture in it, completely gut the place. Like if it's got old render on the outside, take the render back to the base stonework on the inside. If you've got old plaster, as I have, with the sort of mud and horsehair, take all that off.
Yeah.
Go back to the base walls, see what you've got in terms, because what you may find, as I found here, some of the windows were actually bigger. The apertures in the stone were bigger than I thought. But I had to size the windows in order not to hold the work up. I had to size the windows on the basis of what was already there prior to starting this work, because of the delivery time on the new doors and windows. And then when we stripped everything out, in some cases there were bricks, like 3-inch bricks down the side of the old window.
Right.
So the aperture was actually bigger, so I could have had bigger windows. This is why I'm saying. And also you may find some interesting features. For instance,
so what you're saying, if it had been stripped back, as you're suggesting, you would have been able to see that.
And so as a consequence, I could have had a bigger window than I've got.
Yeah.
But because the window had already been ordered, I
Right.
couldn't change it.
Right.
And also, obviously, if there are more major problems, and also you may find some interesting things, as for instance, we found a filled-in window which I didn't even know was there in the north gable end. Yes, it had just been bricked in, and because I'd never done any work on either the outside wall or the inside in that room, I had no idea there was a filled-in window.
Cool.
Yeah, so you may find some interesting things.
Wow.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Peter.
Yeah, that's all right.
It's been a great pleasure, and lots to think about there.
Yes.